All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Hutch here, and today we are going to intro one-step and two-step equations. Now, these are one and two-step equations with variables. So solving a variable is different than just evaluating an expression or solving an equation. Okay. When we're solving for a variable, there's just something missing in the problem, which is so sad, don't you think? And so I want to remind you of Merg here that we've had over on our window. If you look over, you can see it over there right now. She's very sad, maybe because her name's Merg, but maybe, I don't know, maybe because there's a variable and a missing number in all of her problems. So basically, Merg, if you look at this acronym backwards, it says our GermDOS. And so we have our GermDOS, and like backwards, we have our SADMEG, okay? But in this case, it's SADMERG, okay? So we have GermDOS when we're solving an equation or an expression, but when we have variables, we're going to work backwards, and we have SADMERG. Okay, and so this is the process. Basically, you're doing opposite order of operations. Okay, and so you're going to start off with subtraction and addition, then you're going to do multiplication and division, and then any exponents or roots, and then any grouping very end at the last step. Okay, and so that is how you're going to solve equations with variables and end up with happy Merg. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and walk through this. You've actually should have some experience of one-step equations from 6th grade, but we're going to review those real quick and jump right into two-step equations as well. Okay, so follow along with me. Here we go. It's a pretty fun process. They're nice little puzzles, and it's pretty structured. All right. So if I'm thinking of SADMERG, okay, first is any subtraction or addition, okay? And so we're going to just be doing the opposites. Remember, whatever we do to one side of an equation, we have to do to the other side. So everything is staying equivalent, okay? So instead of a positive 12, we're going to subtract 12 to both sides. Okay, and I want you to physically cross out and show that zero pair. You do have to pay attention to your integer stuff here because we have a negative 12 and a positive 10. And so we are left with a negative 2 on this side. And then we are left with an m on this side. So you can see they're called one steps because you solve them in one step. So m equals negative 2. If you were to plug negative 2 in to m here, you would see negative 2 plus 12 equals 10. Okay, all right, let's go to number 2. Two-step problems. Okay, SADMERG says addition, subtraction first, so take care of the easy things right away. Instead of a negative 9, we have a plus 9. We have to do it to both sides. Physically cross that out, showing the zero pair. And make sure you have your equal sign. Everything's going to fall down and be brought down. 9, 8, 7. So we have 7 equals G. And you're done. All right, let's go ahead on to number 3. You can see now there's no addition subtraction. Okay, so the SA part, there's nothing to do there. We have SADMERG. Okay, so no addition subtraction. We're going to take care of the multiplication or division. I like to put a little dot there to remind me that that is negative 7 times y. So how do I get rid of a times negative 7? Well, I'm going to divide by negative 7. That's your opposite. Okay, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay, please do the fraction bar like that. Don't write divide like that. Okay, all right, so physically cross that out because that makes 1 y. And so now we have y equals, and negative times divided by a negative is a positive. So we just have 91 divided by 7, or 91 sevenths. Okay, we can go ahead and see if you can use your calculator here. Let's see. Oh, it actually equals 13. So we can go ahead and instead of writing 91 sevenths, we can go ahead and write 13. Okay, you can use a calculator for any of these. You don't have to do the long division or anything like that. That's not what we're testing today. We're testing your ability to solve for a variable. All right, let's take a look at SADMERG. Okay, there's no addition, subtraction. There is division or multiplication. So we have an A divided by 9. Let's take a look at how you show the opposite. So instead of divide by 9, we have multiply by 9. Here's what you do for this. You're going to put your little dot there, and I want you to put the 9 up here in the numerator, because that's really what you're doing. That's going to be a 9 over 1 technically. And then you're going to have times 9 here. So multiplying does go off to the side. Division, use the fraction bar. Okay. All right. Physically cross those out, because 9 divided by 9 is 1. And now we have a -4 times 9. Negative times a positive is negative. 4 times 9 is 36, but it's negative. And so we're left with A equals -36. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to number 5. So now we're going to deal with fractions. Okay. So right here it says to get rid of a fraction, okay, multiply by the, well, to get rid of a fraction, multiply by the do you know what I'm going to write? Reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. Okay, so this is a 2/3 times x, okay? And so how would we get rid of a times 2/3? Well, we would divide by 2/3, right? But we don't divide fractions. What do? We multiply by the reciprocal. So that's what they mean. So we're going to remember multiplying is on the side. So multiply by the reciprocal. And when you do that, you can see everything would cancel out if you cross simplified. Make sure you do it to both sides. Okay. And I'm going to write it like this because the 10 is in the numerator. And I'm actually going to rewrite that as 10 over 1. Okay. All right. So that's how you would solve those. This all cancels out and makes 1. And so we have x equals, and then let's go ahead and do this multiplication. We can cross simplify here. Divide by 2 is 1, divide by 2 is 5, and we end up with 5 times 3 is 15. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and try number 6 now. Okay. So if you take a look at this one, we have a W times 4/9. So go ahead and imitate that. All right, so how do I get rid of a times 4/9? I would divide by 4/9, but we don't divide by fractions, right? We multiply by the, say it, reciprocal. All right, so I'm going to multiply by 9/4 to both sides. And remember right here, this should be 9 over 4, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to 8 over 1. Okay, that way I'm really multiplying the fractions visually like that. Let's go ahead and all this crosses out, and I'm left with W equals, all right, can we cross simplify? Yep, we can. Okay, divide by 4, I end up with 1 and a -2. So -2 times 9 is a -18. So that's your answer for that one. All right, let's go ahead and try 7 and 8. If you guys want to jump over and pause this and just try it on your own, you can, or if you want to just keep going with me, whatever you'd like, okay? All right, number 7, here we go. It's a k times -6/5. Remember, sometimes I like to put my negative up in the numerator there. Visually, it just helps me. We're going to get rid of a multiply, we divide by -6/5, but we don't divide by fractions. What do, everyone? We multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so I'm going to quickly multiply by -5/6 to both sides. And I'm going to make this 12 over 1 to visually help me do the work. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and all this cancels out and is one whole. And we're left with k equals, we can cross simplify here, divide by 6 and divide by 6. There's a 1 down here and a 2 here. So 2 times 5 is 10. Okay. All right, and there we go. We're done with that one. Number 8. we're going to multiply by the reciprocal again, because to get rid of multiplying, I need to divide, but I don't divide fractions. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply by. Okay, and again, visually, I'm going to put this up in the top to help me here. All right, so -2 over 1. Okay, and so I'm going to multiply by -2 over 1. Okay, and that's pretty easy. -2 over 1 is just 2, so I can actually get rid of that. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and cross everything out. So we're left with m equals, what's -9 times -2? Okay, hate to hate, we actually love. So we have a positive 18. Okay, and there we go. All right, so that's how you handle one-step equations with whole numbers and positive, negative integers, as well as rational numbers, fractions. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to 2 steps. We're going to get some good practice here, and then you can get to your work today, which is a maze. When you get to the maze part, this is something that you need to do it on your own because you have to submit this, but you can work on it with a partner to make sure, see if you both agree and things like that, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get some more practice with this. It's your, so you can get really, really good. All right, so remember, this is gonna be the same process, but you're really gonna have to work through SAD, MERG. Okay, so opposite order of operations. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, so just think you're going to go very simple, the easiest thing, to the more complex of exponents, grouping, things like that. Okay, so we start off with subtraction or addition. Okay, so instead of a positive 8, we're going to do -8 to both sides. Okay, so remember, we work in layers with algebra. Okay, I'm going to cross that out. Okay, and so now I have, we're going to bring it down. I have a 6x equals 50 minus 8 is 42. Okay, now we're going to move to the next step. After subtraction addition is, are there any division or multiplication? Yep, there's a 6 times x. How do I get rid of a times 6? Well, I divide 6 to both sides. Cross that out physically, and you're left with x equals 42 divided by 6. And we know 6 times 7 is 42, so x equals 7. If you're not sure, you just do double checks with your calculator, make sure you're good. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and move on to number 10. Okay, remember with SAD MERG, notice I write it a lot when I'm solving for variables because I want to visually see what's going on. Okay, all right, so any addition, subtraction first. Yep, I see a -5, which is the same thing as a -5. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Okay, cross that out. And now I have my next layer, which is 2n equals 11 plus 5 is 16. Okay, all right, now I'm not done because when you solve for a variable, the variable needs to be by itself. So next is any multiplication or division. So I see a 2 times n. How do I get rid of multiplication? Opposite is division. So instead of times 2, I divide 2 to both sides. Cross that out, and we now have n equals 16 divided by 2 is 8. Okay, and there we go with number 10. All right, let's take a look at number 11. Same kind of thing. If you want to try 11 and 12 as a group, go ahead and hit pause on this, and then you can hit play again and see how we do, or just keep it running and we'll go from there. All right, here we go. I'm paying attention to my SAD MERG. Okay, so any addition, subtraction first. Yep, I see addition. So -9 to both sides. Okay, that's where those additive inverse knowledge is important. Physically cross that out because that's a 0 pair. And now write your next layer of what you have. So I have a -4k equals, and then 13 minus 9 is 4, and it's positive. Okay, now I have a negative 4 times k, any multiplication or division. So how do we get rid of a times negative 4? We divide by negative 4 to both sides. Okay, this crosses out. Okay, and what are we left with? We're left with k on this side by itself, which is good. And 4 divided by negative 4, okay, is 1 whole, but it's negative 1. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so there's your answer for number 11. Let's go ahead and look at number 12. Do I have any addition or subtraction? Okay, well, this is a little bit tricky here. Okay, so what you're going to have to look at here is when we're thinking about your SAD MEG or MERG, okay, here's what we have. This is a negative 3 times y, okay? All right, so the question is, because this really isn't, this is 7 minus 3y, but we have to sort of figure out how to get rid of this thing right here. So this is what's a little bit tricky, is you have to think about, well, what is that 7? Well, that 7 is a positive 7 sitting there, okay? So we have a positive 7 and a negative 3y, okay? But it's a negative 3 times y. So we are going to take care of this positive 7 that's sitting here first. It's not being multiplied or divided or anything. It's a very simple constant just sitting there. And so what would the opposite of the positive 7 be? Well, it would be a minus 7 to both sides, okay? So this is going to cancel out, okay? And then I'm left with a negative 3y, or negative 3 times y, equals, and then 34 minus 7 equals 27. Okay, all right, now this starts giving us a little bit more clarity. I have a negative 3 times y. How do I get rid of a times negative 3? Well, we divide by negative 3 to both sides. Physically cross that out, and what are you left with? You're left with a y equals 27 divided by 3. 27 divided by 3 is 9, but it's negative because of the positive divided by a negative. And there you go, y equals negative 9. Okay. All right, so just be careful. This would be one that maybe you would want to star and go, oh, I see what to do, okay, if I have that scenario. Okay. All right, let's go down and take care of these ones here. Okay, so number 13, we have an x divided by 2 minus 7. Okay, so according to opposite order of operations with our SAD-MERG, okay, what do we do first? Any addition or subtraction first. So I see a minus 7, so let's go ahead and do our plus 7 to both sides. Physically cross that out and now write the layer of what you have next. So I have an x divided by 2 equals 9 plus 7 is 16. Okay. All right, so now I have an x divided by 2. How do I get rid of a divided by 2? Well, I multiply by 2. Remember, we represent multiplying like this with the 2 up in the numerator. Okay, these cancel out because we have 2 divided by 2. And what are we left with? We're left with x equals double 16, which is 32. Okay, and there you go with your final answer. All right, let's go ahead and try number 14. Okay, again, thinking of opposite order of operations, addition, subtraction first, okay, is what we're going to undo. I see a plus 8, so what are we going to do? Minus 8 to both what? Both sides. Physically cross that out, okay, and let's go ahead and write what we have now. Okay, so we have a c divided by negative 5 equals 11 minus 8 is 3. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead. We have to get rid of this divided by negative 5. How would you get rid of a divided by negative 5? Well, we would multiply by negative 5. So this is where it goes in the numerator on the side, and then you need to do it to both sides. Okay, physically cross that out, and we are left with c equals negative 15. All right, here we go. 15 and 16. We have some more fraction stuff here. So let's go ahead and see how you do here. All right, Sadmerg. You're doing good here, Sadmerg. All right, what's first? Any addition, subtraction? Do you see any? So we have a positive 22. What are you going to do? Subtract 22, good, to both sides. Physically cross that out, okay? And now write down what you have. Here's my equal sign. So 28 minus 22 is a positive 6. And then we have 3/5 x. All right, so now we took care of that. We're on division and multiplication. So I have a 3/5 times x. How do I get rid of a times 3/5? We would divide 3/5, right? But we don't divide fractions. What do? Everyone, what do you say? We multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply by 5/3 to both sides. Don't forget that. Okay, and I'm going to turn this into a 6/1 so I can do my math work. Okay, all right, this gets physically crossed out. Okay, and we have x equals, we can cross simplify. Divide by 3, divide by 3. And so we have 2 times 5 is 10. And there you go. I love these. They're like little puzzles that are fun to solve. And it's pretty easy to plug in a 10 or whatever to check and see if you were right as well. All right, let's go ahead and do this one. So we have our Sadmerg, so opposite order of operations. Let's take care of the addition subtraction first. Instead of an add 1, subtract 1 to both sides. Okay, let's go ahead and cross that out. -7 and a -1. What does that equal? Okay, well, -7 and a -1 equal -8. Okay. All right, equals, and now what do we have left over? -1/3 m. All right, so this is a times m. How do we get rid of a multiply -1/3? We divide by -1/3, but we don't divide fractions, everybody. What do? We multiply by the reciprocal. You got it. So times -3/1 to both sides. I'm going to make this a -8/1. And here we go. Let's physically cancel those out. And we're left with an m equals -8 times -3 is just a positive 24 because I hate to hate, so I actually love. Okay. All right. And let's go to number 17. We're getting lots of good practice here, so keep hanging in there. You're doing well. All right, let's go ahead and look at this. This is another one of those sort of tricky ones, right? So if we're thinking Sadmerg, any addition, subtraction first, okay? So don't get tricked by this, okay? Because if you just subtract 7/4 p, look, I mean, you have multiplication in here, and you're just going to end up with a -38 minus 7/4 p over there, and you're going to have to do other stuff anyway. So that doesn't really help us right now. You need to look at this simple constant just sitting here, okay? And so this is a -10. It's sort of like a subtract 10 just sitting there by itself. So that's what you're going to take care of first. So we're going to add 10 to both sides, okay? That cancels out, okay? And what are we left with? So -38 and a positive 10 put us, different sign subtract, put us at -28, okay? What are we left with? 7/4 p, okay? All right, so we have 7/4 times p. How do I get rid of a times 7/4? Well, I divide 7/4, but we don't divide fractions, everybody. What do? We multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply by 4/7 to both sides. Make sure you're representing it like that. I'm going to do -28/1 so I can do the math work. Everything here cancels out. So what are we left with? We're left with p equals, and we can definitely cross simplify this. So I'm going to divide both by 7. So I have 1, and then 4 times 7 is 28. So this is a -4. So -4 times a positive 4. If I hate to love, then I actually hate. 4 times 4 is 16, but it's a -16. So p equals negative 16. All right, number 18, and then we're going to get on to some tricky ones here, okay? And then you can be on your own with your partner. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. We have our SADMERG, okay? So is there any addition, subtraction to take care of? Well, it looks like this is a minus 1/2 x, but there's multiplication in there, so we're not going to touch that yet, okay? So we have to take care of this 9 here. What is that 9? That 9 is a positive 9. So how would I get rid of a positive 9? Well, we would subtract 9. That's its additive inverse. We need to do it to both sides. Okay, let's go ahead and physically cross that out. Okay, and what do we have as a next line? 15 minus 9. We have 6. Equals, and what's left? Negative 1/2 x. Okay, that's a negative 1/2 times x. How do we get rid of a times negative 1/2? Well, we would divide by negative 1/2, but we don't divide fractions, people. What do? We multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by negative 2 over 1 to both sides. Don't lose any negatives. All right, this all crosses out, okay? And we're left with x equals negative 2 times 6 is 12, but it's negative 12, okay? Because we have hate to love. If I love to hate, then you hate. All right, so x equals negative 12, and you're done, okay? All right, last 4. These ones are different because there's some extra little things to be aware of, okay? So I want you to really focus in on SADMERG here, and I'll explain how this works. Okay, so step 1, okay, is I need you to realize and remember from way, way back before that I said there's hidden secret grouping going on. So when you have a numerator of an expression like this, there's actually parentheses. So I want you to go through here. They're invisible, but they're there. You have to do that whole thing in the numerator before you would do a denominator, okay? And since there's these invisible parentheses, that means we actually have grouping, okay? And so this is grouping. And if you think about opposite order of operations, when would grouping be? Well, grouping is dead last. Okay, so it is the last thing that we touch. Okay, and so it's tricky because I know you see that addition sign in there, but you're not allowed to touch it yet because it's inside the grouping, and grouping is going to be done at the end. Okay, and so the second that it's by itself, you can remove those parentheses, but for right now, they're stuck. Okay, so here's what you have. You have grouping divided by 8. Equals a negative 3. So the question is, do you have any addition subtraction? Well, you do, but it's stuck in the grouping, so you're not allowed to touch it yet. So we're actually done with addition subtraction. Do you have any division or multiplication? Well, yeah, I have divided by 8. So how would you get rid of a divide by 8? Well, you would multiply by 8. Okay, and so that's where it needs to go, and you would do it to both sides. That cancels out the 8s because 8 divided by 8 is 1. And so what are we left with? Now you can get rid of the parentheses because they're not in a numerator. They're just by themselves. Okay, and so that expression is alone. And so you can just write x plus 11 equals 3 times 8 is 24, but it's negative. And there you go. So now you're back to some familiar things. Okay, and so we can go back to SADMERG and go, oh, I have addition subtraction I can take care of. So we have minus 11 to both sides, okay? Physically cross that out, okay? And we have same signs, add and keep. So let's go ahead and write what we have. So we have an x equals, same signs, add and keep. We have a negative 24 and a negative 11, okay? So 24 plus 11 is a negative 35. Okay, so that's the process with problems like that. Okay, all right, so number 20, let's do one more together, and then if you want to try the last two with it paused, you can do that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and take care of this according to SADMERG. Okay. Do we have any addition subtraction? Well, we do, but it's locked in the grouping, so you can't touch it. So we move on to division or multiplication, and we have a divided by -2. How do you get rid of divide by -2? You multiply by -2. Okay, make sure you put it in the numerator. And then times -2. Physically cancel that out and write what you have remaining now. Okay, we don't have a numerator, we just now have n minus 5. So that grouping can go away. You unlocked it basically. And 2 times 7 is going to be 14 positive because hate to hate you actually love. Okay, all right, now we can go ahead and take care of addition subtraction. So plus 5 to both sides. Physically cross it out. And what are you left with? You're left with n equals 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, and there you go. All right, 21 and 22. All right, same idea. If you want to pause and try those out and then check, you can. Okay. After you do that, you and a partner, you have to do your own, but you and your partner can work on this 2-step equation maze. What you're going to be doing is starting here, solving the first one, follow SADMERG. Okay, and so you would do minus 11, minus 11. I don't know why I'm putting 11. Minus 10, minus 10. Physically cross those out. Write what your next layer is. You need to have all the work. You have to have the work. Equals a -26 and a -10 is a -36. All right, and then instead of times 4, we divide by 4 to both sides. We're just doing opposites. Physically cross out, and you have x equals, okay, 4 times 9 is 36, but it's a negative, so we have x equals -9. And so you're going to look at where you're going, and so here we go. There's my -9, and here I am down to this problem. So you're not necessarily going to have to solve all problems. Okay, and then whatever the answer is to this, you're going to find it and move through the maze until you get to the happy smiley face at the end. Okay, all right, so take your time, work hard on that. If you're good to go, go ahead and try 21, 22. I'm going to go ahead and continue those now so you can check them after I finish. Okay, all right, so according to SADMERG, I can't touch that invisible grouping, so instead of divide by -6, I'm going to multiply by -6 to both sides. Okay, physically cross that out, and what are we left with? A minus 13 equals -6. Okay, all right, now we can go ahead and do this addition subtraction, so plus 13 to both sides. I really love doing these, they're just like fun to me. And then A equals 13 and a -6. So we're doing different signs subtract. 13 minus 6 is what? 7. Keep the sign of the bigger, which is positive. So A equals 7. So check yourself and make sure you got 7 on that one. All right, ready? We can't touch the grouping. We can take care of this divided by 9. How do I undo it? Well, we multiply 9 to both sides. Okay, physically cross that out, and we're left with W plus 8 equals 4 times 9 is 36. Now we've unlocked that, and we can subtract 8 to both sides. Okay, cross that out, and we are left with W equals 36 minus 8 is a positive 28. And there we go. All right, so go ahead and work on your 2-step equation maze. When you get to the end, then export and send this to the 2-step equations and maze submission. Okay, that's something that I'll expect to see in there. All right, great job today. Love you all. See you later.